Hey, hi, hello, it's me, Tiana here, back at it again for another video, and today we are talking about Degrassi Season 7. Yeah, so today we're talking about Season 7 of Degrassi. The Degrassi videos really just be sporadic. I be trying to do them weekly, but for one, I don't like doing stuff I don't feel like doing, and I don't always be in the mood for Degrassi. I be want to watch new stuff that I haven't seen before. And it's hard for me to like watch an entire season of a show, record a video, edit the video, and upload the video all in a week, because I do have a full-time job, and I could watch Degrassi while I work, but I feel like I would be cheating the video because I'm not paying enough attention to the actual show. But yeah, this is a Degrassi video. So I do have a lots of thoughts on Degrassi Season 7. So the first thing I do want to say, Degrassi Season 7 is the second half of the school year from Season 6. Season 6 was like the fall semester, and then Season 7 is the spring semester. I'm assuming they broke it into like two half seasons or two half school years instead of doing the whole school year like they had been doing previously, is because this is the senior year for the final class of OGs. In the original first season, we had two groups of OGs. It was the grade 7s, which were Paige, or was it grade 8? Yeah, they were grade 8. The grade 8s, which was Paige, Paige, Ashley, Terry, Hazel, and all of them, Jimmy, Spinner, and all of them. And then the grade 7s, which was Emma, Manny, Toby, Liberty, and JT, and all of them. Paige and her crew graduated in season 5. And so now in season 6 and 7, it was the senior year for our final class. I think that production wise, I think that they were trying to figure out a way to sort of integrate new characters in, and also keep the characters that people like and care for. I know it's probably like really hard for shows about high school students once they get to like season 3, 4, 5, depending on how they have the show structured, to think like, do we want to continue the show because people like the show with these characters, but the premise of the show is that they're in high school. So do we want to bring the show, change the premise and bring them to college, or like have them out in the world, or do we want to just have new kids come in and hope that the audience will like latch on to the children, the new kids that we bring onto the show? And I think Degrassi tries to do a mixture of both, where we had a lot of new characters come in. We had in season 7 the Lakehurst school burning down, so we have all the Lakehurst students coming in of all different grades, and then we also have like new characters that were at Degrassi already that we just didn't see or didn't have spotlight. Also characters that have been on the show that got more attention this season, trying to push them towards being lead characters. And then we also have the characters that had already graduated, moving or having storylines and us following them in college, and also have some of the characters that were about to graduate make plans together so you could spin them off together as well. Or not necessarily spin them off because it's still the same show, but like have them follow them off where they go and not have to have like 400 storylines. You can have characters together having a storyline together but somewhere else, right? I think that I think it hurt the season in some ways and helped the season in some ways. It hurt the season because I felt like it was a lot going on, and there were too many characters that we were supposed to be following, that a lot of characters that I would have loved to see more didn't really get a lot of screen time. And I feel like that's the problem most seasons, where the characters that I liked don't get nothing versus the characters that I guess they want us to like, or they want to set up to be the star, gets a lot of time and attention. But I don't necessarily like the character, like Darcy, and we'll get to Darcy's storyline, but she was very much supposed to be like the star going forward. But I do know a lot of the characters said, or a lot of the actors said, that there was like issues with who was going to be on the next season when it came to season 7, and a lot of people who thought that they were going to be in season 8 ended up not being in season 8 with no real notice. It was just like, yeah, you're fired. So I don't know what ended up happening to Darcy and why, or Shanae, and why she ended up not staying on the show. Yeah, some of the big storylines of the season were Darcy's assault, Spinner having cancer, Manny and Jay as a couple. I don't know who asked for that or wanted that, but honestly, I feel like Degrassi has a problem with having male characters that are kind of terrible and did things that were horrible, and then redeeming them by putting them in relationships with characters that with female characters that are seen as like goody goodies or like good people, and giving this like perception that them being so good or kind or nice rubbed off on this terrible character, and now that they are also good, like we don't actually have to see them make any changes to be a better person. We just see them dating someone that they have told us is a good person. So if this good person likes this bad person, then obviously this bad person can't be that bad. And it really aggravates me. Like the first person they did this with was Sean. I was gonna try to give Sean a little bit, because I don't feel like he was that horrible of a character prior to dating Emma, but the story was telling us that he was a bad person before he was dating Emma. So I guess I have to go with what they're telling us instead of my heart. Because like, listen, I love Sean as a character. Sean is one of my favorite of the male characters. He's one of the few male characters that weren't just outright blatantly horrible. It's really just Sean and Jimmy, and that's really it. I might be missing somebody, but off the top of my head, that's the only two characters I can think of that just weren't horrible and needed a smidge of jail. The first character that they did this with was Sean, where Sean was, this bad boy who got into a fight in his old school and beat somebody until they literally went deaf. And then he came to Degrassi. He had like a hard family life. He had he was a bully sort of at Degrassi, but he wanted to be different. He wanted to change. He started dating Emma, who was a goody two shoes, and then he wanted to be better for her. He had like some slips and missteps. He was still being mean, still bullied some people, but overall his relationship with Emma sort of redeemed his character. They did the same thing with Peter, again with Emma, where Peter was he created a sex tape with Manny. Well, I don't know if that's a sex tape, but he revealed Manny's nudes to the school. He also did the same thing to Darcy. And he just overall was just shady, all the stuff that he did to Sean. But he dated Manny, and he dated Emma, and then in turn dated Darcy, who both are the goody characters, and we're supposed to believe that his relationship with Emma made him good enough to date Darcy, and his relationship with Darcy then made him a good person, even though we see during his relationship with both Emma and Darcy that he never really stopped being a terrible person. Like the way that he talked to and about Darcy, about a lot of the situations that they had going on, especially with after her assault, made me be like, why are we supposed to like this character? Like, and maybe this is me projecting, like maybe they don't intend for us to like Peter as a character. I just assume that if you have a character who is dating the character that you want to be like the main character or the main focus, and she is like a good person, that the main character, her love interest would be someone that we're supposed to be rooting for. Like I feel like they wanted us, like I said in my other video, I feel like they wanted us to think that Darcy and Peter were in game, that Darcy and Peter were like this great couple that we should be rooting for. So why would you make him a terrible person if we're meant to root for them together, right? And then they also did this with Jay and Manny, where Jay was terrible until they also low-key did this with Alex and Paige too, where Alex was a bully and mean until she dated Paige, and then we started to see her more as a full-fledged character versus not a bully. I feel like Alex was one of the few characters in which they did this trope and it worked well. I really liked Alex after she dated Paige, even though I feel like the Paige Alex relationship was a little bit toxic. I can't remember if that was the season that their relationship ultimately ended, but basically it was just that Alex was not as type A and planned and ready for the world as Paige was, and they were just going in different directions. Where I'm pretty sure it was this half of the season, because it was after she went back to high school for a semester and then was done, and I'm pretty sure that was the beginning of this season that their relationship ended. But with all the stuff that was going on in Alex's life, she just wasn't in the position to be the type of girlfriend that Paige needed. So that didn't end up working. And even though I liked Alex and Paige as a couple, it really was never going to work. And it was mainly because Paige was not able to see herself as someone who dated women, and it was never going there. That was always going to be an issue in their relationship, even though she liked Alex and loved Alex and wanted to be with Alex. I don't think she was able to come to terms with her sexual identity. And though I personally don't feel like people need to label themselves and they don't want to label themselves, I feel like she had a lot of hang-ups about people perceiving her as someone who dated women. Because even in later on in the season, when she was starting a relationship with Griffin, and he assumed that she was a lesbian because when he moved into their apartment or whatever, they were dating, and the only person he had ever seen her date was Alex, so he assumed that she was a lesbian. And she was like, no, I liked Alex, I don't like women. And like, even months and months after the fact of her having a full-on relationship with a girl, she still could not admit that she was someone who was attracted to women. So yeah. But the Manny and Jay stuff, Jay, we saw another aside. So Manny and Jay is another trope that, I don't know if it's a trope, but it's another thing that they continued to repeat in Degrassi, outside of the bad boy dates good girl and the redeeming of that character. But also, like, the theme of the season was characters who befriended their ex or current boyfriend's ex or current girlfriend. Like, for Darcy and Jane to randomly be friends, even though the last girl that Spinner dated was Darcy while he was dating Jane, was weird to me. But I feel like they did that with so many characters, where Manny and Ashley ended up being friends, or friendly, I should say. Like, it was strange to me, and that may be just because that's never been an experience that I've had. I've never tried to be friends with someone who dated someone that I was in a relationship with. I've never tried to be or I've never stayed friends with anybody who like crossed a line with someone that I was dating or like was trying to date or in a relationship with. Like, I just find it weird because I feel like it's a trust thing more than I don't want to go like super deep into the thoughts that I've been working through about monogamy and like ownership in relationships and stuff, but it's not really an ownership thing or like a you like took something that was mine thing. It's more of a, if I can't trust you to respect boundaries why would I be your friend? It's just weird to me, especially when the relationships had overlaps. Like the Darcy Jane thing is fine. I feel like I would think it was a little bit shady that you randomly want to be my friend when I start dating your ex, but also they had just met and she had just came to the school, so it's not like they had a chance to be friends previous. She didn't want to be friends, and then she started dating Jane started dating Spinner, and then Darcy wanted to be friends all of a sudden. She had just met Jane. They might have been friends had neither one of them dated Spinner, but to me it was just weird. But Manny and Emma have a history of continuing to date the same people or have crushes on the same people or just having overlaps in the relationship. And the big one this season was, besides the Jay and Manny thing, but the Damien and Manny, and then Damien and Emma, and then Damien and Liberty. And the reason why it's really, really wild to me is, first of all, there was a whole like school beef, and the reason why Manny and Damien ended up not working was because Damien went to Lakehurst and Manny went to Degrassi, and because of the beef and the fact that the boy from Lakehurst ended up killing JT, the schools did not like each other, right? And that was really the only reason why they didn't work as a couple. They both liked each other, they both wanted to be together, but the school stuff, the social aspect of it was too hard and they didn't want to do it, right? Immediately, as in the same episode that they decided that they were not going to be together, Damien started flirting with Emma and trying to get with Emma. So then he flirts with Emma and they start dating. First of all, Emma and Damien never really felt like a real couple to me. I never really felt like Damien really wanted Emma. It just felt like he was trying to see if he could get Emma, and then once he had her, he was like, oh, I guess we're dating now. In the middle of their relationship, he starts to date Liberty or flirt with Liberty, and it was sort of the same vibe of, I don't know if he actually likes Liberty or if he just wants to be with Liberty to see if he can be with Liberty. Like, Damien was such a weird character because they wanted us to think that he was like really nice and sweet and also like smart and interesting or whatever, but then also was a hoe. And I guess you can be smart and sweet and nice and a hoe, but like the way he was doing it was not like, it wasn't like nice. Like, it's not like he was dating one girl and being honest and upfront. It wasn't given the end of John Tucker Must Die, when he was being upfront with everybody that he was dating and letting everybody know that, yes, I'm a slut, but I'm an honest slut. Like, he was just dating people, overlapping and ruining friendships, because Liberty and Manny and Emma have been friends since, she said they have been friends for 6 years or something like that, but they go back and forth on that timeline because I feel like they said that they have been friends or friendly like most of their lives, and they were gonna lose an entire friendship because of a boy, and it just, I don't know, it didn't sit right in my spirit. I didn't like it. But then the Jay and Manny stuff, Jay and Emma's relationship was not like that deep, but it was deep enough that if it was me, I wouldn't have dated Jay if I was Manny. And I feel like Manny, I said this in other videos, Manny is a great friend. And they write her as such a good friend. They make her almost to a fault loyal. And for her to date Jay, to me, just felt out of character. It felt like that's not necessarily something I could see Manny doing, especially with the context of how they started dating. So basically, Manny was wanting to make her parents upset, so she started dating Jay because, you know, he's a burnout who dropped out of high school, he, you know, steals and does drugs and has sex with strangers in a ravine. So she wanted her parents to think that she was dating like some crazy wild boy, whatever. So she started dating Jay, or telling her parents she was dating Jay. They weren't really actually dating. She was just using him as a facade, right? As a way to act out and make her parents mad. I feel like there are other people that she could have did that. There are other characters that she could have done that with that would have been, it would have been just as successful. In her deciding to then really date this character and really like pursue a relationship with them after the fact would have been less shady or weird to me. I don't know. I also really did like Jay when he was dating Manny. I can't remember if their breakup was final at the end of the season. I'm pretty sure it was, but either way, I did like the characters together. I think once again, this was a good redeeming of a character. Even though I don't necessarily feel like Jay should have been redeemed, the work they did with him as a character while he was dating Manny really did make his character more tolerable. So the other big storyline was, I don't know if this was the big storyline, but a major storyline, but Spinner gets cancer in this season, and I don't really know if I even care about the storyline enough to really talk about it, but Spinner gets cancer in this season. He gets testicular cancer and has to have his left testicle removed, and he is like acting out, beating up people because he's so angry, and he's dealing with like manhood and feeling like I don't know if impotent is the word that I want to use, but just feeling like less of a man because he has to lose a testicle. I feel like it was really interesting storyline to have in a show about teenagers, and that idea of masculinity not being like physical, that even if you lose a testicle, or you lose a fight, or you're not as like brawny or stereotypically masculine, that you're still a man, and you don't have to prove masculinity through violence. I feel like more shows should talk about toxic masculinity. More shows should have conversations about how people present masculinity, and different ways to have masculinity. Like this is the whole, I don't even know if it's like a real issue, but the whole thing about Harry Styles being on the cover of whatever magazine he was on the cover of in a dress, and people being like, oh, they're trying to make men less masculine or something like that because he was wearing a dress of the magazine. And like both sides of that, of the people who are like, so many men have worn dresses in magazines or on like so many other places. Why is it such a big deal when it's Harry Styles? And then also people on the other side being like, wearing a dress does not negate masculinity, that your clothes have nothing to do with masculinity, and you know, all that whole conversation I don't care to have. But I wish more TV shows focused on teenagers, talked more about toxic masculinity, and understanding that being a man is not so pigeonholed to just what you wear, who you date, like your like personality revolving around like beer, girls, and violence. Like it doesn't, you can open it up, it can be more things. It doesn't have to just be those very small facets or whatever. So I did think, while I didn't really care about the storyline enough to really talk about it, I did think that was really interesting and unique of them to have that storyline in this season of the show. And they even mentioned it, that it's not very like, it's kind of rare to have testicular cancer at such a young age, but I am glad that they add that story in. I guess we can talk about Holly J. Sinclair. This is the first season with Holly J. Sinclair. Holly J is also the sister of Heather Sinclair, and I feel like I don't like that they made her the sister of Heather Sinclair. I feel like it didn't add anything to her character other than to have people could like be able to talk about Heather Sinclair. And I feel like it created more questions than answers. Like, why was she at Lakehurst but her sister was at Degrassi? Assuming that I don't really know how school system works in Canada, so maybe you can just go to whatever high school you want to go to. But in America, you have to go to the school that you're like zoned for based on your house. So if there are two sisters who share parents and they live in the same household, they would go to the same high school. So that I was just wondering the entire time why they were not at the same high school. And then also just the idea that she was living in Heather Sinclair's shadow, even though Heather Sinclair went to Degrassi and she went to Lakehurst, so they would not have an overlap of people who knew them both. So it was just like, what shadow are you living in? I'm not understanding. Also, Heather Sinclair in this first season is very mean for no real reason. It has no real redeeming characteristics. I know because I've seen some of those seasons that she was in that she becomes a character that is like a main character that we're supposed to care about and root for. So her intro to the show, I didn't remember her being this mean. Like, I didn't remember her. I knew she was bullying Anya, but I didn't realize that she was really bullying Anya like this. Anya is another Lakehurst character we get. She's very boring. Anya never gets interesting. I'm pretty sure I watched every season that Anya was in. She never got interesting. Never cared about her storyline. The most interesting thing she ever did was do coke. And whatever season that was, she did coke. And her relationship with Sav was very annoying to me for multiple reasons, besides the fact that she was very boring and very bland. And Sav is very, very, very fine. But, you know, that's what they I don't know. Sav is another character from Lakehurst. And we saw his storyline. So his storyline, right, of him being like this really shy, sweet, or whatever, and he never even kissed a girl before. He starts spending time with Nina Dobry. What is her character name? Mia. He starts spending time with Mia, and Mia like has a crush on him. She teaches him how to kiss, and then he's like, oops, just kidding. I don't actually like you. I like Anya. I just wanted you to teach me how to kiss. I thought that was so strange. And also a little bit mean, because I feel like he could have been honest with honest with Mia about his like intention, instead of leading her into thinking that she liked him, that he liked her, or that there was some kind of like relationship that they were building towards. I just found that weird and mean. And then it seemed like everybody knew that Sav liked Anya, but to me it just felt like out of nowhere. The other character, Damien, was also from Lakehurst. I'm trying to think of any of the new Lakehurst characters we got. Jane was from Lakehurst, and her brother. That storyline of Jane's brother, who is Mia's baby daddy, and him being a horrible father to their child, and wanting to be with her, but not wanting to be a parent, which I just found the audacity of that to just be infuriating, of him wanting to be in a relationship with Mia but not wanting to deal with the fact that Mia has a child, even though the child that Mia has is his child too. Like, and then I sort of found Jane shady in that situation of them. I guess that they were trying to like, I don't know if we were supposed to like Jane in that moment, because she did, like, they basically was like she ditched Mia when she had the baby, but also that's her niece, and we never see her interact with Mia in any way. Like, we know that her brother, whose name I really can't even remember, her brother like was not taking care of the child but was giving money when he had money to give, but we never saw Jane interact with the baby. We never saw like his family, his mom or whatever, interact with the baby. So yeah, that was and Nina Dobry is also about to leave the show. I think she leaves early next season, in season 8. or maybe it's season 9. I can't remember, but I know she leaves early in the season. Like she's in like two episodes of whatever the season is that she leaves. And then Danny got more to do, and it really annoys me that Danny got more to do in this season because again, I've seen some of the seasons in the future. Danny is only in, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, and they gave him more to do, like he was going to be a starring character, and then never gave him anything to do afterwards. The same thing that they do with all of the characters of color, with the exception of Sav, because I feel like Sav ended up getting something to do, and then eventually when his sister comes to the school, she has stuff to do, but they just never know what to do with the black characters. They never know what to do with the black characters. They never know what kind of story. Even this storyline with Jimmy's still on the show in this season, and Jimmy's storyline is that he is trying to learn to walk again, but they don't really do much with it. And even like with the Jimmy opening up the store in the end of last season, he opened up the store where they were selling t-shirts or whatever, and then the store's just blatantly shut down, or just shut down like quickly in season 7, and we never see another thing about them having a whole store. They never know what to do with the black characters. The season ends with the characters, the final OGs or whatever, graduating from high school, and that final episode honestly truly made me cry. I don't know if it was just like hormones and it just caught me in the right, like hit me in the right spots, and I don't know, but I really was crying, and it was weird because I've seen that final episode like a million times, and it wasn't even the JT like stuff of the memorial that they did for JT and Liberty crying or whatever. It was just the realization that this was the final episodes that we were gonna get with all of these characters together. I can't remember if it hit me that hard when I watched the show originally, like before I knew that this was it, because I don't even know if the fans really knew that the characters were going to be gone the next season, because I feel like in the next season, in season 8, the only characters that are still there are Manny and Emma. I'm pretty sure everybody else is off the show. Next season we don't even get, I don't think, Paige and them in the next season. Like I think they just brought it back to just Degrassi, and we don't get any of those characters except for Manny and Emma. But it was just, I don't know, something about the emotion of the episode and the finality and ending of all of it just really made me cry. And I don't even know if it was like happy tears or sad tears, or I don't know what the thing, but it just made me cry. And then the Natasha Bedingfield song, I loved that song. I loved that. I don't know if it was, I loved the whole album, but I loved all like the singles or whatever she had during that time period. I really was into Natasha Bedingfield. And I was so excited. I remember when I saw that she was going to be on the show, like in their graduation episode, or the prom, I should say. It wasn't the graduation, it was the prom. And just them playing that song over and over in that episode, just really, that Unwritten, that was my favorite song in whatever year this was. So I think it was 2008. I don't know. Was it 2008? I think I was like 16 in 2008. I don't think I'm that close to age to Degrassi, to the kids in Degrassi. But the biggest storyline of the season that I've sort of been dancing around is the Darcy assault. So as with the episode, the season 3 video where I talked about Paige's assault, I will give a trigger warning that I will be talking about rape. So if you are uncomfortable, this is the time for you to just click off. I saved it for the end, so you know, you can watch everything else. I don't have to do like timestamps and figure it out. Like, you can watch everything else. This is the last thing I'll talk about. If you don't want to listen to my thoughts on the storyline of Darcy being raped, then thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. I don't know. But yeah, so let's just get into it. So Darcy, the season starts off. I always find it interesting when Degrassi makes the choice to have like a big, like earth-shattering, I should say, storyline, very early in the season. Like with the Page of Saul, I think it was like season 3, episode 2 or episode 3. Like, it was very early in the season. That was the same thing with this one. This was this was the second episode of the season. They go on a trip. Darcy is roofied and then assaulted. The thing that I really loved the most about this storyline was the way they talked about her Christianity and her rape, and the idea that her love or her like reverence for her virginity and her her perception of herself being tied so much into her Christianity and her being a good girl, and it really tearing her apart to be assaulted. And I think it really gave a lot of perspective to my personal view that virginity culture is tied very deeply into rape culture, and that you can't come to a place where people are like happy and healthy in their sexuality and also have virginity being something that people value and like look at as like positive or important. Like, you can't have a subset of people who believe that virginity is the end-all be-all of you being a good or pure person, and also have a society in which people are able to have like healthy sexual ideas. Like, they're inherently against each other. Those ideas are inherently against each other, and this storyline like speaks to that very well, because Darcy, if you compare the way that Darcy went through her assault situation and the way Paige went through her assault situation, is you can see how much the indoctrination of virginity and Christianity really harmed Darcy, because Darcy's biggest issue was not even necessarily that she was raped, but was the fact that she was no longer pure, that she was unable to separate the fact that people knew that she had had sex or been penetrated, I should say, because it's not rape, it's not sex, but that she had been penetrated, with also the idea of her like being a good and pure woman. Like, she was unable to separate the fact that it was not consensual. She was not able to have agency in that moment, that she did not make those choices, that it was something that was done to her, and that it wasn't her fault, with the idea that women are not supposed to have sex prior to marriage. And she was trying to like, it was so harmful to her, the idea that she was no longer pure, that she wanted to end her life because of it. And I don't know, I feel like really passionate about like all of the virginity propaganda that is in storylines aimed at teenage girls. I've said in other videos that I wanted to do a video about not rape culture, but virginity culture in shows on teenage girls, because I can remember watching 101 when I was a kid and seeing the whole Brianna storyline of her losing her virginity. I remember the Moesha stuff of her losing her virginity. Like, and I feel like in every show where the lead is a female, there is a whole big thing about virginity. Even with me watching Girlfriends, the whole storyline of Joan being the good one, and she also is the one who does not have sex freely. She's the character that, you know, takes her time. She has her 30-day rule or 90-day rule. She wants to be in relationships and in love before she has sex. And I just feel like it's just a it's just a way to control women and control their choices and give them less agency. Like, you can be like, you don't think that people who are teenagers should be having sex, because I am in that category. I don't believe that teenagers should be having sex. I feel like you don't have the emotional intelligence to navigate sexual relationships at that young age. However, I feel like people need to have the ability to make those choices for themselves. My view on that is based on like a blanket statement or a blanket idea of teenagers and their emotional intelligence. Some teenagers are able to make those decisions and be fine, and some are not. But in my view, most teenagers aren't. But I can't tell individual people what is right for them or what is wrong for them. And some people need to have those heartaches, need to have those pains to understand and, deal with stuff, right? But yeah, I feel like that was really interesting, the way that they used her assault to talk about like the toxicity that comes with being super religious and being assaulted, because I feel like that's probably a very like prescient thing for people who grew up very religious and were assaulted, and able to see that storyline of her like processing not just the idea that somebody violated her body, but that they took something from her that she felt valuable, and trying to find who she was without that virginity. The whole thing of her, them being Manny and Peter telling her that, that didn't count, it wasn't actually sex. And it's like, and she was able to put her ring back on. It was like, that lets you know just there that virginity is fake. If you can be like, this was not if you wanted to define virginity as never have been penetrated before, but then also be like, because her first experience was an assault, that doesn't count, then you have to also be able to be like, the whole concept is fake. If you can decide what counted and what didn't count, even with the whole thing of like, oh, women will have like anal sex or oral sex instead of vaginal penetration, they're still virgins because they didn't have the sex. Like, if you're parsing it like that, you already understand that the concept is not real. That is something that people are pretending is something that matters when it truly just doesn't. And also, you can just lie because there's no way to tell. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that part of the storyline. I really enjoyed that idea of a different perspective on virginity culture than you typically see in teenage shows. The storyline I did not like, though, that was sort of intertwined with the Darcy assault storyline, was the storyline of her and Snake. And, well, so like, the thing that kind of irritated me was also the idea that people are just lying about assault constantly, right? Like, I get that Darcy was going through stuff, and I honestly don't even really blame Darcy a whole bunch for her lie that Mr. Simpson had been inappropriate with her, because she didn't say that he like did anything like sexual to her. She just said that he was making her feel uncomfortable and that he touched her leg, right? So I get why the school took it seriously and why the school had to do whatever they had to do. And I also understand the I don't know, my whole thing was just the way that the people around the situation handled it. I really liked that Emma's mom believed Darcy. And even though we as a audience know that what Darcy said was a lie, I don't like that a lot of the characters did not treat that as if it was not necessarily true, but treat that as if it was a credible claim. I don't like that Manny and well, I don't know, Manny kind of knew it wasn't true, but she didn't really know it wasn't true. But I didn't like the way that Emma immediately thought that Darcy was lying and that there was no way that Darcy could be telling the truth without having any sort of knowledge of what happened, um, and what really the accusation was. All she knew that someone made an accusation, and then when she found out it was Darcy, she knew that Darcy made an accusation, but she did not know what the accusation was, what the extent of what it was she said happened, and she didn't know anything about what actually happened. So for her, as a self-proclaimed feminist, to automatically assume that the character that Darcy was lying about the assault or lying about her interaction with Mr. Simpson without having any facts, I don't know, it made me mad, but I guess it kind of makes sense, because when the stuff comes back to your door, when it's your family, when it's your people, a lot of the time people start to get shaky about their morals. People will be like, oh, you should believe women, until the women are accusing someone that you like, or someone that you care about, someone you respect. Like the whole thing with Joe Biden, of the person who said that she was assaulted by him, and a lot of people who were big in like the Me Too community, people who were saying we need to believe women, were also out here openly supporting Joe Biden, openly being like, this is the person that we should be voting for. And like, wow, I get it, I did vote for Joe Biden. I wasn't publicly being like, I'm Team Joe, like, and aligning my brand with his brand, because that's just not, that's just a bridge too far for me, myself personally. So I really, it really made me mad that Emma, of all people, just did not believe Darcy. And again, I get that we know as an audience that Darcy is lying. So a lot of people who probably watched the storyline were on Emma's side. And I probably was on Emma's side too when I first watched the show, because again, we know that she's lying. But I just wish the people in the world would have took it more seriously. Like, and mostly Emma, because I feel like, I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense, and I'm just overthinking it, or maybe it just rubbed me the wrong way. But even if it was like realistic, it made sense for our character, because Emma loves like taking a stance on something that I don't have nothing to do with her. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on season 7 of Degrassi. Yeah. So in the comments, tell me what you think. Did you like this? Whose storyline did you find the most interesting? Was there anybody's storyline that I didn't talk about that you wish I would have talked about? Was there anything that you found interesting or found, entertaining in this season? What storylines did you like? What storylines did you hate? What characters did you like? Was there anybody whose opinion you changed on in this season? I can't think of anybody that I didn't talk about Griffin, but he's very hot. And they should stream Radio Free Roscoe, because I need that. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. That's all. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Like this video if you like this content, and I'll see you in the next one.